Welcome to the Industry Boring Podcast. I'm Cullen Reichart, your host, and today we'll be covering almost anything related to cannabis.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining the Industry Boring Podcast. Next time you're at the GreenBroz website, you can use the promo code IBP5 for an additional 5% off of your shopping cart, or mention the Industry Boring Podcast to your sales representative for additional discounts. So, Jeff, thank you again for coming out and being a part of the 420. You're the 420 show of the Industry Boring Podcast, man. See, I'm losing my mind.
You're just high.
Yeah, this is how this life works. Listen, I mean, well, speaking of technical difficulties, we've had a couple, and you were just sharing a story, and we're obviously having some now, so that's how this works. But yeah, anyway, you were mentioning something about your freezers.
Yeah. Last time we were supposed to do this podcast, we had a major issue with our coolers. They all went out at the same time. So we were taking stuff from the coolers that was still good, putting it in the walk-in, taking the stuff to temp out, throwing it out. I had to deal with the technician. We had to like refill. It was just crazy. It was a crazy day all over. But it happens every once in a while, and it's part of the game we play, right?
It does indeed. So I mean, one of the things I think that obviously as a chef and a business owner, a restaurateur, you obviously know what dedication is required just to have a business and then to make it successful. Obviously, we run into all kinds of things, but I think I talk about this with a lot of people. Like there's this problem that everybody has, and they have this idea like, oh, I could be successful. Yes, you can. But I could. This is my dream. Yes, it is. That's great. But the work.
Yeah.
Don't discount. Don't discount the amount of work that just because you're doing something you love doesn't mean you're not working.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're doing something you love, it doesn't feel like work. That's the truth. I mean, there are parts of it that feel like work. It's all the parts that you don't like to do. But for the most part, yeah.
And my dog's barking.
Sorry, we love dogs.
Are you kidding me,
I
dog?
love dogs.
Come here.
Bring them on.
Come over. They've been sleeping the whole time. Then we start this and it starts going. So I was thinking about this. I was looking at your website, and very professional, really well done. And it looks like you obviously have a pedigree. So how long have you been doing this? I mean, how long have you been a chef?
First, I have to give props to my middle son, Jared, who actually put together that website. And he's been with me, from the beginning. He's been helping out. Now he's working in crypto, but he was doing everything he could to really help build this business. So props out to him. But I've been doing this since 2010. Nice. And I wasn't even a chef. I was in the fashion industry. I was doing marketing. I had just started, just basically retired from the fashion industry, trying to figure out what was next. And Anthony Robbins has said, if you want to know what your purpose in life is, see what you love to do when you're bored. After the refrigerator, after TV and everything else, just, what do you do? What do you love to do? And I love two things. I love cooking and I love weed. And at the same time, I was cooking for a family member who was suffering from terminal brain cancer. Oh my God, how cute!
This is the loud one.
Oh, he's so cute. And they asked me if I would be able to, make some edibles for him to make, things a little smoother for him. And I was making the edibles, but my son said, hey, listen, you're going to have to try to take that taste out because he can't take that taste. He's medicating all day long. He doesn't want to know he's medicating with his brownies or cookies. So I was challenged to take out the cannabis taste from my edibles. So nobody had ever done that. Sure. Up until that point, everyone's like, oh yeah, this is the way it tastes. People are like, oh, I love the taste. I'm like, okay, whatever, bullshit. No one likes the taste. And then I realized what the taste was.
No one likes the taste.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's like liking the taste of burnt toast if you really want to know. I mean, I realized what the taste was. Right. I did a lot of research, and the challenge with it was that the reason why every single strain that you use to cook with tastes exactly the same is because what you're really doing in the process of making your canna-butter or canna-oil is you're burning off the terpenes, the chlorophyll, the flavonoids, and you're drying out that leaf, and all of that together makes that really danky taste, which is really basically the cannabis's way of showing like the black part of the burnt toast, right? Doesn't matter if you have rye toast, white toast, wheat toast, it all tastes the same once it's burnt. And the same thing with cannabis.
Once it's burnt, it's...
Yeah, and the same thing with cannabis, it all tastes the same once it's burnt. So I figured out that there's a way to remove those compounds so that in the process, there's no way to burn them if you've removed them. right? So I removed the
Yeah, right.
compounds. I made I started off with light tasting canna-butter and canna-oil, and I have recipes for that all over the internet now, so people can make a much lighter
Yeah.
version, the tasting version, but it's still very potent, right? But what I have
Yeah.
a patent pending now on is my process for the tasteless and odorless cannabis. So it's literally flower that is
Wow.
devoid
So
of any odor and
you
taste.
actually have you have IP around this. That's
Yes,
freaking
yes,
awesome.
yeah. So it's been patent
That's
pending for
great.
about a year and a half. Hopefully, it'll get published within the next year, and hopefully we
Yeah,
can
it should
grant the
be.
patent. Yeah, they
All
said
right.
about 2.5 years or so. So we're getting there.
Yeah. 2.5 years, and that's when you start actually getting to do something with it, and you feed back and forth a little bit, and then hopefully you get something out
Yeah, I
of
mean,
it.
I'll tell you, I tried. At first it was a trade secret, and it was going to be a trade secret forever.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. I'm like, why don't I just patent this? Now I have the time to sit down and patent it. I wasn't doing anything else really.
Yeah.
So I sat down with the attorney. I wrote a patent. It took me a long time to do it, but we've got a patent pending now, and it's pretty awesome. It's really neat to see that there could actually be something tangible coming from this now.
That's great, man. I mean, I'm a big fan of IP, and I pretty much welcome anybody to be competitive,
Hmm.
because I think that's fine. It's kind of what drives us all, right? I just don't like people who steal,
Yeah.
So you can compete with me, just don't make my stuff cheap and try and compete with me, because that's
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, so
Do your thing.
I'll tell you the craziness. So part of my whole thing is, since I'm able to take all of the compounds from the cannabis, all the compounds responsible for the odor and taste out of the actual cellulose of the plant, and make that cellulose of the plant basically a blank canvas to do whatever I want with it. I'm able to flavor it without any additives or chemicals. There's a specific process that I invented that's rooted in molecular gastronomy that will allow that cannabis to taste like any herb I want, for example, like oregano, rosemary, thyme, and we've shopped it around and looking for a licensee, because as soon as the restaurant's open, I'm going to be the executive chef for the world's first and only true cannabis edibles restaurant, where consumers are going to be able to dose the food on their own with an ingredient that's familiar to them, but that is also cannabis. So, for example, I'm able to take my weed and make it taste like oregano, exactly like oregano, smell like oregano, but there's no oregano oil in it. There's no crushed oregano in it. There's no oregano in it at all. It's just that the way that I've created it, I've made it so that it can literally assume the taste and odor of anything that I put within this contraption that I invented, right? So it's been tested by the 5 top labs here in California. There is nothing in it but weed, but it tastes and smells exactly like an herb. As a matter of fact, I did an experiment where I was flying. I was flying from here to New York, and they took out just like from my bag. It was a random check, and they saw this thing that said no oregano on it. He's like looking at it. What is it? I said it's just oregano. And he opens it up and he smells it. And he's like, oh, cool. And he puts it back on my bag, right? Like literally, there was a bottle this big of weed, but it smelled like oregano. So he was like, oh yeah, that's really cool, And on the other side of that patent, I'm able to make odorless smokable cannabis that can taste like anything I want. So if you go back to like, I think, the 80s or 80s when I was a kid, we used to smoke these clove cigarettes. They used to be called charms and stuff like that. I can make my weed taste exactly like that, but there's no clove in it. It just tastes exactly like clove
Very
cigarettes.
interesting.
So, that's just patent pending.
Well,
I'm
listen,
looking
man,
for a
we should.
licensee for it.
Yeah. Are you looking for a
We
licensee?
are. We're looking for a
Yeah. Well,
licensee.
we should have that. We should have that conversation. That's really interesting. I think as a manufacturing company, I'm always looking at things that are novel and unique, and obviously for this industry, because this is where I live and breathe and make my money.
Yeah.
And I'm passionate about the industry. I'm passionate about other people's success, and I mean I feel very strongly like this is one of the last. It won't be the last, but it's one of the present last bastions of Americana, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a global thing, but still, this is very uniquely American in its growth and its opportunities, and I love it. So I've been a big fan of
Yep.
it. So I'm definitely interested in.
We'll talk about it. And now there's a use case
Yeah.
for it.
No,
All the
because
restaurants are going to need it. All the lounges are going to need it. So, and it's precisely dosed.
absolutely.
Precisely dosed. You'll get a little packet of 2.5 or 5 milligrams of no oregano to sprinkle on your lasagna, or rosemary Jane to sprinkle on your potatoes, and and it's also quick onset. So it takes 30 to 40 minutes to feel it. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that now we're able to do
That's very cool.
that the state's approving.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm you got me all
Me
excited.
too.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, these things are yeah. And this is what I do. I mean, from a mechanical, electrical, mechanical engineering side, this is what we do. We geek out on this shit,
Yeah.
man. It's it takes. It's funny. I get these conversations with a lot of people because a lot of people go, "Oh, GreenBroz, blah blah blah, great name," and they'll come and they'll go, "Oh, I got this idea, that idea," and you're sifting through these things and you go, "Oh, well, yeah, maybe not." Some of them are fucking genius. You're like, God, how did this guy think of that? Some of the stuff I've done before, and I'm like, sorry, it didn't work.
And then how do you scale that?
I love it, man. I'm passionate about it. Yeah. And then that's the other
Yeah.
question. How can I do that really big?
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. I mean, I think that is what we're talking about in the basis of this industry. Like you're doing something that never had a need, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this need didn't really exist before, because from a cooking perspective, you have these sets of flavors. There's a lot of them, and some people use are unique and stuff. But everybody knows that you use a little. You got your basic flavors. You got your salty. You got your sweet. That. Spicy, whatever. I'm not a cook. I'm not a chef, so I don't know all that stuff. But what I am saying is, like, it's basic in some respects, right? But you've actually kind of expanded this in an opportunity that wouldn't have existed without cannabis. I mean, literally, why would you have done this if it wasn't for
100%. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned, especially doing so many dinner parties and feeding so many people, is that people want to have a great dining experience. And if it's cannabis, if there's cannabis involved, that's even better. But they don't necessarily want to taste it. They want a unique and novel experience. No. They want something they want to taste. And for me, as a chef, my biggest problem was coming up with stuff that tasted like weed. And I figured out why that happens, and I addressed the issue. And now none of my stuff tastes like weed. Yeah. So, you can eat, I don't know, pick a recipe, stuffed shells, for example, and get high from it and not even realize there's weed in it until 25 minutes later. You're like, what the hell, And it's all because the herbs and spices we use, or salad dressing. There's so many things you can do with it. There's a lot of different...
really interesting. That I had no idea, to be honest. I looked at your stuff and I'm like, this is not the direction I thought we were having this conversation. And what I love about doing this and having these conversations with people like you is like that, this is it. Like, this is innovation and creativity and exploring and moving and pushing the envelope. And, and this is the stuff that I thought of when I was a kid about the American dream. Like, we're this great country of entrepreneurs. And, I think that was all, probably not as true as I thought it was, altruistic, but that's how I thought about it, And then here we are, and we're having this conversation, and you're like, yeah, dude, I mean, it blows my mind, the concept of that, because I mean, I've done this. We used to make green butter, and I hated it. Yeah. And I think that one time I made, my wife at the time made a Rice Krispie treat, and she put it in the frosting, right? So I'm licking the frosting. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I went to the grocery store. And we're at the grocery store, and I'm trying to self-checkout with a vegetable, right? And the menu, you got to go through. And I was so lost. And I'm like, what the fuck is going wrong with me? Why can't I work this goddamn menu? And then it dawned on me, you're high, dude. You're high.
Well, yeah. So that's a similar experience to how I realized that I removed the taste. So I was experimenting, and I decided to make a batch of cupcakes with this new oil that I had just made. And I was like, all right, I don't taste or smell anything in the oil. I probably fucked it up. So I made these cupcakes. And 2 hours later, at 1 o'clock in the morning, literally, I lived in New York at the time. I was in my sweatpants, my pajamas, flip-flops, a torn T-shirt, across the street from my apartment at Duane Reade, which is like CVS, in the snack aisle, going up and down, saying, why am I here? How did I get here? And what do I want? And I was like, holy fuck, I did it. I removed the taste from my edibles, because I didn't taste any weed in that cupcake at all. And that's actually, it was my aha moment. The next day, I called my best friend, a guy named Brian, who works in media. He worked in media, and I said, hey, you're not going to believe this, but I figured out how to take out the taste of weed from my food. And he was like, you know what, I don't have time for your shit, but call my friend Justin at the Daily Beast. I met Justin the next day, gave him my cupcake. He said, I want to write an article. I'm like, tell me how you like the cupcake first. He's like, no, I'm going to tell you in the article. And then 5 days later, the article came out, Meet the Julia Child of Weed. And that literally catapulted me from 0 to 100 in just like, a matter of weeks. Wow. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. That's amazing. Good for
Very
you.
Grateful.
Man.
Grateful to Brian and Justin and the universe and everything for just bringing it together. It was really incredible.
Yeah, it kind of comes together
That
like
was the
that. Isn't
start.
that funny?
Yeah.
I find that to be, yeah, I find that to be very common, But I mean, it wasn't like you didn't do the work prior to it. It's the work and the struggle and the failures that you do
Yeah,
getting
it took
there,
me
and
a
then
year
all
and
of
a
a sudden it goes
half.
click. You're like, hey.
It took me a year and a half. And I mean, I was cooking for a family member who was ill, as I think I mentioned earlier, and he didn't like the taste. So I had to figure out how to take out the taste.
Yeah.
It took me a year and a half to take out that taste. Unfortunately, he never got a chance to try it. But that was the catalyst to get me started.
Unfortunately.
And I thought, there's like, it's so cool, just to know that it started out the right way, and now it's going still in the right direction. I cook for a lot of people that are ill because they don't want to taste the cannabis in their food.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think to me that there's such a difference between, obviously smoking and eating, and I find them to be completely different experiences. And the things I don't like about the eating is the time, is the amount of time. I'm much more heady, and I like to be in control.
Yeah.
And then I find that to be, but if it's less, like if it's a small amount, it's a completely different experience. It's slow and it's easy, and it's just, it's like for me, like drinking beer right now is like 2 beers, man.
Yeah.
I've reached this place where I'm good, and I don't need to do any more than that. And if I do, it just isn't any fun, right? So I like to have that. It's the experiences where I don't know the dosing or I don't know the impact is going to be that I get kind of like, I don't want to be here, and how do I not?
Yeah, dosing is really important, and I learned that really early on when I was going through this process and figuring out like how do I know the dosage, and everyone has a different dosage, and I figured out how to dial it in.
Yeah.
I literally was able to dial in my dosing. So at our dinner parties, I don't think I have it. Maybe I have an example of it here. But yeah, I do. At our dinner parties, I do something that no other chef does. We have these cards here. And everybody puts up on the corner here their what they want dosage wise: 2.5 milligrams, 5 milligrams, 20, 50. You have to know what it is, and then we fill all these in, and we'll dose accordingly to individual. In other words, individually, we'll tailor the experience so everybody gets to their number up there. And that's never been done before.
Really?
Yeah, most cannabis chefs just throw it all together.
No, man, come on,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
That's
This
not
is tailored. Yeah,
really.
yeah.
Like
Isn't that crazy?
medical guys aren't doing this, man.
Isn't that crazy?
How, that's crazy.
And then you take it
like,
home
this
and
has been the
you guys zoom
like
in
this
on-
has been the big thing about dosing has been, the big thing about medicine and cannabis being medicine has been, well, we can't control the dosing and blah blah blah. I mean, to be able to say that or to be able to do that is pretty significant.
Yeah, we can control the
Because, I
dosing
mean,
of our butters, oils, and our culinary cannabis, like the herbs that I told you about earlier. So I can tell you that
That's
this
great.
much of a specific batch of no oregano is going to be 2.5 milligrams. We pre-pack it, and you're going to the restaurant, you're going to take it, rip it, and put it on your food. It's literally weed, 100%. There's no powders in it. There's no distillate in it. It's 100% cannabis.
No way.
Yeah.
Now we're having a conversation at some point where I get to learn this stuff. So we're doing some NDAs and getting down to the nitty gritty. I gotta know.
Well, you know what? We'll do that. We'll have another conversation. Just so you know, I've only got 10% left on my computer for some reason. I can't find my charger. So just letting you know, it's been going down. I'm watching the numbers. So just be aware.
Well, we're done.
We have like 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Well, I mean, listen, honestly, again, like not understanding, because, going into these conversations and it's just about trying to meet people that are very interesting and have done something and created something in this industry that's unique. And I'm kind of taken aback. I mean, I really was not expecting this level of kind of innovation when we're talking about food. But of course, right? Of course. This is part of the industry. This is exciting.
I'll tell you, I think it's a responsibility, and I was on the West Hollywood Cannabis Commission, basically, where it was all the different awardees of the licenses for consumption lounges. I was awarded with my team one of the licenses for consumption lounge in West Hollywood. They only gave out 8 licenses. There were 122 finalists, and we made it. My license has since been sold to Woody Harrelson and Bill Maher, but I did hook up with another organization, with another group, the owners of Pink Dot, which are the restaurant that I'm executive chef at right now. They actually were also awarded a license for a cannabis lounge and dispensary, etc., and I'm going to be the executive chef there. Nice. And this is going to be the only place in the world where you're literally going to be able to infuse your food directly with cannabis flower as well as other, derivatives of the flower that are 100% natural. There's no distillate, there's no powders, none of that stuff. It's 100% cannabis. It's coming from the flower directly, and we're doing it, what I like to say the old-fashioned way, but also in a much more new-fashioned way, where we're literally able to make the cannabis edible and then use it as a familiar herb or spice to help you, the guest, flavor your food and at the same time dose yourself, knowing the precise dosage of whatever it is that you're flavoring your food with. I mean, if you ordered pan-roasted rosemary Jane potatoes at our restaurant, you would get pan-roasted potatoes. You sprinkle the rosemary Jane on it, now it tastes like rosemary pan-roasted potatoes, and it's got a quick onset of like 30 to 40 minutes. So you know how you're going to feel within half an hour or so.
That's pretty amazing. So let me ask you something. I know that in the smoking arena, the terpenes and everything are such a significant portion of the experience when you're smoking. That's not quite the same thing when you're consuming an edible.
Well, it's also, I'm glad you mentioned the smoking thing, because I had that conversation with people that are interested in licensing the same technology for the odorless pre-rolls, right? So the thing with the terpenes is that terpenes are only good on the first hit, right? Even that first dry hit, that's a terp hit, right? Your first hit when you're smoking it, you're going to get your terps. Once you've smoked that, you've taken that first hit, you've pretty much destroyed all the terpenes going forward. You might get another hit of that, but after a while, it all tastes the same. It doesn't taste like that first terp hit,
Right.
So, and when you're cooking with cannabis, you want to remove the terpenes, because the terpenes are very volatile and they burn off at a much lower temperature. And that's that taste I was telling you about. That's what I was telling you with the burnt toast, right? So burnt terpenes and chlorophyll and flavonoids, they combine to give you that danky, weedy taste, the same way that when you burn toast, it combines to give you that black, ashy taste. So it's a very similar science behind it.
Wow, that's very interesting, man. I kind of think about it, because I think that one of the big things that's happening in cannabis is that a lot of people think, oh well, THC, the THC number is the number, and really from a smoking perspective, it's just a part of the story, right? Because I mean, it's the entourage effect, whatever they want to call it. But I mean, there's things that there's flavors that I like, or strains of cannabis that I like, and I go, it's the whole thing. I mean, I'll put them in my hand and rub my hands together. I get that whole thing, like just like smelling coffee, like freshly ground coffee, just like putting your face in the coffee.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's as big of a value to me as actually drinking the coffee, although I still drink the coffee.
Right, yeah. And that's a dual experience, and that that's what I'm trying to share with you. So it's definitely something that you've got to keep in mind here.
That's pretty incredible. Wow, that's this is a really interesting story. So, your newest restaurant venture is going to be
in West Hollywood.
In West Hollywood.
Yeah. We're going to be.
Where else would you do it?
Yes, we're not announcing the name yet, but we'll be opening. Hopefully, we were supposed to open April 20th, 2022. That whole thing didn't happen, and we ended up, selling that license. The new one, I pray, is going to open within the next 6 to 8 months. So, it's going to be affiliated with Pink Dot. Pink Dot. The owners of Pink Dot also own this dispensary. We're going to open up that restaurant, and then we've got a massive plan for what we're going to be doing once we open that. So I can't go into much of it, but it's pretty awesm.
Yeah.
These guys brought me in, they partnered with me on it, and we're very excited about it. Yeah, it's fun.
Well, congratulations, man. You are on a very strong upward trajectory, obviously, and you're connected with some great people. So I mean, your future is very, very bright.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations on all the work and the success on that.
Thanks. And you're going to have to come in and do a podcast from our spot when we open. That'll be the fun part.
I'll be good for 25 minutes.
Hey, I want to see what happens after the 25 minutes.
No, everybody be interested, but we'll go for hours. I can promise you that.
That'll be fun.
I can talk for days anyway. That's pretty cool. So anything else? I mean, like I tell people all the time, like there's this whole level of dedication, energy required, for people who are looking at whatever it is, they're looking at this industry and going, I want to get in. Anything that you would say to somebody who's maybe in a similar situation to you, or just kind of poking around trying to understand it?
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you follow your instincts for what you personally would love to see in the industry, and you could bring that to life, it's a whole different thing of trying to copy somebody else or make something that somebody else is doing better. For me, I went from the fashion industry into cannabis because I saw a need. I saw a need for taste, because taste is an issue. A lot of people didn't like that taste. I saw people were very fearful in cooking with cannabis, and they didn't know potency. They didn't know how to deal with the taste or the potency, and how to host dinner parties, and they wanted to have weed parties, but they didn't want to have smoking in their place, and so how do they deal with that? And my whole motto is making cooking with cannabis simple and easy for everyone. I teach classes about that. As a matter of fact, I'll be teaching one of the artistry down in West Hollywood on the 18th of July on how to entertain easily with cannabis. Like, how do you, as a just regular person who has no time in the world to do anything, how do you serve infused food to guests and dose it precisely in a very short period of time? Let's say you're calling a bunch of friends over for a dinner party on a Friday night, right? And it's Thursday. You're not going to have time to make canna-butter or canna-oil or whatever. How do you know what to do? And I'll teach you how. I teach you how to, literally go and how do you make your pigs in blankets infused the right way now with that little time. So what I like to do is,
that's crazy talk, man.
Yeah, I make everything simple and easy for everyone. That's always been my motto. My cookbook, as a matter of fact, I don't know if you got a chance to check out the cookbook. It's the 420 Gourmet. But in that cookbook, every single recipe has the dosage per percentage of the strain that you're using. Like if you go to the dispensary and they say it's 15 or 20 or 25%, whatever, and you follow.
Yeah, I just got a chance to click on it, but I hadn't.
It's
haven't
really
dug
cool.
into it.
Every recipe is individually dosed, and you can actually figure out the dosing per serving from that cookbook. It teaches you all about the plant. A lot of the stuff that I wrote in the book in 2015 is outdated now, and we'll come up with another edition that'll update it. And I'm working on a second cookbook, so
yeah. Congratulations, man! That's exciting stuff. Wow, it sounds like you're busy as you could be.
I do the best I can with the time I have, right?
That's awesome, man. Listen, well, I mean, that's all we can do, right? We try really hard to fill our lives up with meaningful things, but all you can do is just do what you can. I mean, beyond that,
100%.
Whatever. Yeah. Sometimes I wish I had more time. I'd like to be better at golf.
Right? We all wish we had more time. Like, we're on the second half now. It's like
Yeah, the second half, man. That's crazy too. So that's another question. I mean, that's kind of interesting. I mean, I think I started my company late as an entrepreneur. I mean, I started my company when I was 42 years old. And until then, I'd been a corporate guy my whole life, and here you are going from what is fashion, which is a very tedious and difficult and high stress environment, to something that's probably equally as high stress.
Yeah, but this is something that I've created that I love. Oh yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, I started this business when I was 47, and I'm 59 now. That's crazy.
Wow.
Right?
Good for you, man.
So
that is crazy. So you've been doing this for a minute.
Yeah, for a quick minute. I started in 2010.
That's great. Hi everyone. Thanks again for joining the Industry Born podcast. Next time you're at the GreenBroz website, you can use the promo code IBP5 for an additional 5% off of your shopping cart, or mention the Industry Born podcast to your sales representative for additional discounts.
All right.
Yeah. So Jeff, I think we kind of got, we were just getting ready to talk about dessert, because I was thinking about, I did see your flowers, they're apples. Yeah.
Apple roses. Yeah. The canna apple roses.
Yeah.
Thanks. That actually became one of my most popular recipes. Every single event that I do, and I can't even tell you how many I've done, many. That is something that we serve at every event, because everyone just loves it. They're tedious to make, but people love them. And, each one's precisely dosed. And we like to use a strain that is more, I don't like using the words indica and sativa, because those are really just phenotypes of plants. But the way we now market cannabis as sativa is more uplifting and indica is more relaxing. So I'll use it in that vein. Yeah. But we use strains that are more indica oriented for those desserts. So people go home, then they fall asleep and they have a good night's sleep instead of being all wired when they get home. So
I get my sugar and fall asleep. Yes.
Yeah, it all works out. It all works out great.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. So that's a quick question though. I mean, if you're making a reduction, or you're you're isolating by removing the unwanted portion, the flavonoids that you don't want, so that you're getting just a pure cannabis. Are you still having that kind of sort of effect? Like you said, you're using something that's more indica based, but isn't that? Is that still maintain that? I mean, it's THC is THC.
Perfect question. You couldn't have asked a better question. Let me tell you how I make my butters and oils more than anything else. The culinary cannabis is a whole different science, but
Yeah.
when I make my canna-butter and canna-oil, the first thing I look for is the ripeness of the trichome. So if you know about trichomes on the plant, if a trichome is not quite ripe and it's glassy, right? I mean, I'll compare it to a banana, right? A banana has, let's say, three ripening stages: yellow, green, yellow, and then spotted and black, right? That's all, right? So trichomes have a very similar ripening phase where you go from clear to milky to amber. Now, if you harvested your flower when the trichome is clear, that is super like uplifting. I mean, it would give you anxiety, give you a headache. It would just be too much, right? It's not ripe and it would just be not good, right?
Yeah.
But once it's milky, then what happens is that you've got something called the entourage effect, which is in addition to your trichomes, you have your terpenes, your chlorophyll, and your flavonoids, and the other cannabinoids. Well, if you really harvest that plant at the right moment, when it's milky with a little bit of amber in it, you're going to get the effects of the trichome coupled with the entourage effect of the other compounds, the terpenes, the flavonoids, and the chlorophyll. Now, that will give you a very specific feeling. And then when you get to the more ripe stage, none of that entourage hardly matters anything, because once your trichomes are amber, or mostly amber, it's just relaxing. It's gonna couch lock you, or you're gonna be, really relaxed and maybe put you to sleep.
Right.
So I'll look at the ripeness of the trichomes, because that's all I care about, because I remove the terpenes, the flavonoids, and the chlorophyll before I even start the process. So, and what that does is it allows me to remove the compounds that are volatile and that burn off quickly, so I don't get that burnt taste, right? And people say that the weedy taste is a weedy taste. No, the weedy taste is burnt. It's like, you can't tell me that the black burnt part of toast is the taste of toast. That's not true. It's just the taste of burnt toast. So that's what that weedy taste is. So there is a taste associated with cannabis, don't get me wrong.
Right.
And if you use it properly, then you can get that taste profile and the odor profile. But again, you have to know what you're doing, and it's also, you can't eat raw weed. You've got to decarb it. By the time you decarb it, it's going to taste the same, unless you do something to remove the compounds responsible for that.
Your dogs can, however, eat raw weed and get very high, which
is so
weird.
Yeah. Dogs have a very different digestive metabolic thing going on there. Like, don't you wish you were a dog sometimes?
I hate to segue, but man, my two dogs, I bring them to the shop all the time, and we had done a demonstration for a joint rolling machine that we have, and somebody left a couple of cones on the floor. They were bad ones, and my dogs ate them. And so I'm looking at my dog, and my dog is standing there and starts leaning sideways like this.
Yes.
What's wrong with my dog?
Can I tell you? I'm going to tell you. So my oldest son knows about the story already, so I'm just going to say it. Way back in the day, when I first started doing this, we used to leave, weed all over the place. I was experimenting. Whatever. We had a little, we have a little dog, a little cockapoo. He has her now. He's, with his family. He's married now with a child, and and she lives, she's with him. But when she was with us, all of a sudden I noticed that like all the weed that I had on like the little coffee table was gone. I was like, who took the weed? And like, it was no one, I didn't take the weed, whatever. And I look at my dog, and she's like literally on the couch looking at me just like this. And then just goes like this. And I said, oh my God, she's super high.
Yeah.
So and then I put her on the floor. She couldn't even walk.
Yeah.
My son walks in the door, and he's like, what's wrong with Pepper? She's having a stroke. I'm like, don't worry. It's probably something she ate. I didn't want to tell him it was weed, because he's not into it. That one son of mine is not into weed.
Yeah.
It took me about 2 years to finally tell him what happened. But oh my God, she was like wired. She was gone.
I couldn't even believe it. My wife was so mad at me. You got my dog stoned on me. I'm like, I didn't. I swear to God, I didn't.
It happens. They do it themselves. They know the good stuff. They know what to look for.
It was pretty funny. I had no idea, but it lasted a long time. My poor, it's like 6 or 8 hours for those little dudes.
Yeah, it lasts a whole day. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, but it's like edibles last with us that long also. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of times
true.
an edible can last 6 to 8 hours depending on the edible.
That's
But they
very
last a long
interesting
time.
too. I think that's
That's because when you're smoking weed, it's Delta 9, right? You're getting that Delta 9 high. When you're eating weed, it's 11 hydroxy. So it converts in your liver to 11 hydroxy as opposed to the Delta 9 going through your blood. So that's why it's a different high. It's a different onset time and a different lasting time.
that's very interesting. See, I know this somewhat, but I don't know it, so it's very interesting to hear. I think that I mean, I have friends who eat it and can't. They're like, no, it doesn't do anything to me. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's. But for me,
But no, but if you eat it and it's done properly, like if you decarb flour, like the way we do it,
yeah,
and you use it, on your food, you can really get a great high out of it.
right.
When you're eating it's interesting because some people have eaten gummies and they don't get high from it, yet they get high from my food. And, my next question is, well, is it because, the gummy is made with a distillate or because it's made with something else? And then, are you more susceptible to the actual plant itself? Like if you're eating the actual weed itself put through my process and it affects you, but your edible gummy doesn't affect you. Why is that? I haven't figured it out yet. I'm still in the process of
Well,
trying
there's a
to,
lot in there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of interesting like that. I mean, it really is an interesting plant and the way that it interacts with different people. Some people, obviously some people don't like it at all, and some people love it.
yeah,
But I mean, that beyond that, it is kind of individual in how it affects you. Um,
yeah.
you know,
Everyone's different. That's why we have those dosing cards because everybody has a different tolerance. I
right?
am a 20 milligram person. I used to be a 5 milligram person, right? I know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah,
I have friends that are 100 milligram people. They're called decadosers, right? And I have friends that are 2.5s. So
yeah,
how do you do a dinner party with, that scope of
right.
kind of, guests? And that's why I came up with, this the card. I mean, this is the most for me.
That's
This is
amazing.
this was magic because
Yeah.
this allowed me to individually dose each person at my events.
That's amazing because I mean I don't know if you saw the newspaper that lady who dosed her whole wedding party.
Yeah.
People
What's
calling me
wrong
like,
with some
what?
people? That's great.
Everybody gets 10 milligrams. Ah!
Yeah. Right. And you know what? 10 milligrams is a lot for grandma. That's a
Yeah,
lot,
yeah, yeah. Grandma doesn't need that. Not the first time.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of been the mystery to me. I'm really. I mean, that's amazing that you're able to do that because that's always been kind of the thing. Is like, well, if you eat a little bit, and then for a long time, people were like, well, this is a 10x or this is a 5x, and you're like, what does X mean? And what do you mean by that? Because they weren't getting any kind of consistency, and then and that was kind of the big knock on pharmacology and the medical use of cannabis was, well, you just don't know, and
Hmm.
obviously, I mean, that was true, but it's not true any longer. I mean, we actually have a way to. I mean, you have a way to be very precise.
Yeah, so and I'll tell you something, there are measurements that you could use when you're making your edibles. I will tell you something that when you're dosing or you're trying to figure out dosing of your edibles, it is never a 1-to-1. You can't say that if your weed is 28% that you're going to have, 2,800 milligrams and, 10 grams of your it doesn't work that way. There are loss factors along the way, and I actually have a calculator that's free. You can go to Android or Apple, the Apple Store, and download the THC Calculator. It's for edibles. You'll see it by Jeff the 427 Sugar Leaf Media. And that actually I developed alongside a lab, realizing that throughout the processing of your cannabis into your butter oil, there are various loss factors.
Yeah.
For example, when you decarb your flour, you lose at least 35% of your weight because you're losing moisture weight. So
Right.
now you don't necessarily have that 1-to-1 anymore because your 8 grams just went down to 3.8.
Yeah.
So now but the trichomes, you're not going to lose your trichomes. So you're going to have more trichomes per surface area. So you're actually going to get a bit of a more potent canna-butter, canna-oil out of it. But then if you're putting it through processing, certain trichomes are going to break off. Certain trichomes are going to wash off because they're from another part of the plant that's sticking to your plant. So if you go through my process, it's probably the most accurate, but that calculator takes into account all the various loss factors along the way. So you'll have a much more accurate read on what your potency is. And then once you know your read, let's say that you figure out that your canna oil is 50 milligrams per teaspoon, and you know that there's 95 drops in a teaspoon, you can take that 95 and divide it by 50. Let's make it a full 100. And now all of a sudden,
that each of your drops is going to be half a milligram. So I can give you 3 drops of my oil and on let's say a wing, and know that that wing is going to be 1.5 milligrams. So if you follow it properly, and it is a bit of rocket science, but I teach you how to do it, and I'm giving you all the tools for free. So all you have to do is and go to
How do you
just
make
download
money
it.
giving stuff away for free, man? How does that
I
work?
make my, you know what? I put it out there and somehow it comes back
It
to
just
me.
comes
It's
back.
like,
Oh my god.
I'll tell you, I will we'll probably end up charging at some point once we fix the interface. I don't like the whole interface
Listen,
on the
I think it's
app.
really invaluable, because let's be realistic here. I mean, this isn't something. I mean, while you say cannabis overdosing isn't probably as critical, obviously, as some many other substances, it's still a critical issue, especially for somebody who's new, and you can completely ruin somebody's experience with cannabis. Especially in the edible arena, right? It's hard to smoke enough to really, unless you're smoking dabs. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, and smoking flower is hard to outsmoke yourself. But
But on edibles, it's very easy to overdo it on edibles, and people don't understand what it means, and they're like, "Oh, I don't feel anything," and they keep eating them, and then 2 hours later, they start becoming a wreck, and then 4 hours later, forget about it. They can't even walk 10 feet without holding onto a wall, and then they don't want it. Then they never want to do it again. So for me, I mean, one of my greatest pleasures when I do my cannabis dinners and events is redeeming people from a bad experience. I just catered a bachelor party in Palm Springs. And it was amazing. And there were 3 people there. It's like, I don't want any edibles. I'm like, why not? They said, well, because I had a horrible experience. I couldn't do this, and I want to enjoy this party. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, how about if this is on me? Let's just try one thing. If it doesn't work, you can, do whatever you want. Throw me in the pool. I don't care. But at the end of the day, I guarantee you that it's going to be an amazing experience. And I just gave each of them 2.5 milligrams of my culinary cannabis. And they were like, wow, I like the way this feels. It feels like I maybe had a glass of wine. I was like, yeah, that's what it's supposed to feel like. Now, do you want to go up? And each one of them went up to 5, right? Because like, oh, I like this feeling. What if I do a little bit more? So I was able to titrate them and to, upload them with dosing very slowly. So it's called layered microdosing. And that's exactly what we do. And that's what this card is. This card is a layered microdose to get up to, your total dosage. But I'll never want to go above that. If you want to do that, and come to me next time, my information's on the bottom of the card. But I try really hard, to give people an experience that they're going to remember and want to do it again. It's really important. It's important for the industry.
It's important for the industry. I was going to say that too. Yeah, and also, I mean, if you're going to be in a position like you're in, where you're entertaining people and it's public, and it's you can't have that, like, you don't want people vomiting on the side because they can't get there, or freaking out. You just don't want to have that experience. And my wife and I talk about the consumption lounges out here in Vegas, and getting one of those. And I keep thinking to myself, like, what on earth can you really do with a consumption lounge? I mean, they won't let you have alcohol. So how do you continue to move on and continue to have a revenue model in a situation where, the guy comes in and he smokes and then he walks out. You didn't sell him anything. He bought one dab from you and you're done. I'm like, how do you do this? But what you're offering up right now is exactly what you do. You can make it an experience that is an accumulative experience that could last an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, and you can keep them engaged and enjoying, and and that to me is why, like, what you would want to have in a consumption lounge, right? An experience. Because I don't want to just go, oh, that's the weed lounge. You go smoke your weed there, and then you go where you go over to there and gamble, and you go over there and you drink. And it's, as long as they have that separation of things, I think that was where I was trying to make that connection. Like, how do you do consumption? But it sounds like you're onto something with that.
Yeah, and that was our challenge. The state said, oh, they can buy something in your dispensary, and then they can vape it, or they could eat it, or they could, smoke it in your lounge.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's no fun. I want a restaurant experience, and they said, well, you cannot do for the guest what you do at your dinner parties. And I'm going to tell you that I've probably fed over 7,500 people at my dinner parties, maybe even more, okay? And they said, it doesn't matter how good you are, you cannot do it for them in a paid setting like this, like a restaurant. You have to give the guest a way to infuse themselves. And it's got to be natural. And I'm like, all right, great. Well, what if I gave them weed that tasted like oregano, and they could sprinkle it on their food, and like, oh, yeah, that works. And then, boom. We had it, So, yeah. So, I mean, and that was, part of the catalyst that made it happen was like, we were challenged. I mean, look, anybody can make little packets of, I don't know, olive oil, and you can sprinkle it on your food, and you can make I don't know, balsamic and olive oil dressing or whatever, right?
Right.
But you can't add stuff into it, because the challenge with adding, for example, an herb like oregano and rosemary and all the different herbs you would need to, for example, make an Italian dressing, is that the actual natural herbs usually are too high in either pesticide or heavy metals, and they'll fail. So what we do with our product is we'll take regular olive oil that tests fine. We'll take our flour that tests 100% clean. We'll use our flour to give you the Italian dressing profile, and we'll make an Italian dressing that is made specific with clean flour that tastes like these herbs, and then oil and and vinegar that's all tested, also clean. So as long as all the ingredients test clean. Somebody came to me and he goes, well, why do I need your stuff when I have everything but the bagel and I made it with weed? I'm like, really? How'd you do that? He goes, well, I took decarved weed and I mixed it in with all the everything but the bagel spice, and now people can sprinkle on their food. I said, you have two issues. I said, what's the dosing per sprinkle? Well, I don't know. Okay, great. Here's another issue. I want you to take a tablespoon of that and send it to a lab for testing, which he did, by the way. Do you know that it failed multiple times for heavy metals and pesticides, because all the seeds in there, the poppy seeds and the sesame seeds and all that stuff in there, that's all failed. That all failed. His weed might have been clean, but his added ingredients are not clean. So, what this does is this addresses that issue, because it's already clean. You can create something 100% pure weed,
This is a really great point. I think that a lot of people don't understand. The regulatory requirements around weed are such that if it were a food product, it would be cleaner than almost anything else you eat.
100%. Yeah.
And that includes organics. I mean, that includes organics. Just because it says organic doesn't mean it's passed as high as you have to pass to get through weed. Like, it's staggering to me that these requirements are that high. If you just took it down and said, okay, we'll call it a food substance.
Yeah.
But we don't. And so it's really interesting.
Right.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think I don't think many people pay attention to that or even understand that. But the food that we consume is not good. I mean,
it is not. I mean, take any spice that's in your cabinet right now, and send it out for testing. I guarantee you it will test for pesticides, heavy metals, and all these other things that cannabis cannot have in it. So, and that's the challenge. That's why we don't add things. That's why I don't add, oregano into my weed or oregano oil into my weed, because all that stuff will test not positive. It'll test positive for stuff we don't want to test positive for, right? Yeah. So I can say that all of our product is as pure as can possibly be, and it's been lab tested to prove it.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
So you kind of have this magic thing going on, man. Now you got me all kinds of curious. That is
well, I'll tell you,
all this shit
you want to
works.
hear crazy? I'll tell you the crazy part is that there's so many applications for it on the culinary side, on the inhalation side, the smoking it as flower. When a few years ago, before COVID, at MJ BizCon, I was with a group of investors, and some guy comes over and goes, yo, I heard you have odorless weed. He said, tell me about it. I said, you know what, I'm so tired of talking about it, but I'll tell you what, let's go to the casino and let's smoke it and see what happens. And we were at the Wynn Hotel. And you can smoke anything in the Wynn Hotel but weed. They have a zero tolerance for weed. We were sitting in the lounge. It was him, his attorney, me, my son, and two other people that work for him. And I pulled out 6 blunts of my culinary cannabis. Not culinary, of the odorless cannabis, right? Yeah. We did clove, we did mint, and we did lavender, right? And we're smoking. Not one person came by and said, oh, what is that? They just thought we were smoking something like everybody else, because there was no odor. Security is walking by, like just looking at us like everybody else. Yeah. The girls coming by, asking us if we want to drink, not saying a word about anything. We smoked those things down to the bottom. The guy's like, you know what? I'm going to take you to dinner. And he took us to a Michelin star restaurant there, to talk about possibly licensing the technology. It didn't work out because he was up north and I was down here, and it just wasn't going to happen. But we proved it. The proof of concept was right there in the Wynn Casino.
Yeah. Well, I'll make your machines for you, buddy. Don't even worry about that.
Oh man, you would love this. Let me tell you. I mean, we should definitely get together. Yeah. Fun stuff.
I'm so geeked about it. I mean, I just think this stuff is so cool. We're always playing with like what we can get into as far as the industry, right? What spaces are there? And then, as a manufacturer, we have a lot of ability. Like we have a ton of capability, and we can apply that anywhere we need to. It's not like I have, just because I make trimming and harvesting equipment doesn't mean anything. That just means that's what I make. If you walked into my shop and you didn't know I made that, you wouldn't know what I make. Like I have a fully functional fabrication company, right? So we can make
That's amazing.
We can make anything.
It's music to my ears. You never know. I think I don't know. I'm starting to geek out on what you're doing, so this is all good.
You never know, and that's the beauty of it. Like I mean, just thinking about an appliance. Let's pretend an appliance that is could be in every restaurant in the country. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you. What I'm hoping to be able to do is find a manufacturer licensee to manufacture this product for all the lounges, all the consumption lounges and restaurants are going to be opening up over the next 5 years or so. Yeah. And what this does is it gives them a way for them to provide to the consumer a true culinary restaurant experience, and at the same time give them an edible experience of their choosing. Yeah. So, you're going to have a whole menu. I mean, I just gave you, a couple of examples, pasta or, pan roasted potatoes or whatever. You can go as hard and deep as you want, as long as you're giving the guest a way to infuse their food with something that is unique to that recipe, right? A salad needs dressing. You want to do an Italian salad, you do Italian dressing, you make a dressing that's infused. How do you do that so that it tastes clean and tastes great, right? So ultimately, you're going to have a pre-dosed little packet that people are going to get of this infused salad dressing, or a pre-dosed packet of a sprinkle of oregano, or like you have in a pizza shop, right? You get a little packet of oregano. This is no oregano. It's weed that tastes like oregano. It's 2.5 or 5 milligrams. You're going to sprinkle it on your food. So what happens then is the culinary experience shines, right? The chef in the kitchen and his food offerings shine. And then on top of that, you're able to add to it an ingredient that you're familiar with that will not take away from the taste of the recipe, that will only enhance it.
Enhance it. Oh, dude. Yeah, man. Yeah, I want to make that magic box for you.
Yeah. Let's do it. Package it up all day and all night for these restaurants. I'm telling you, these restaurants.
That is amazing. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a huge. I had this conversation with somebody, and I'm kind of bound by certain restrictions on exactly what I can say about it. But long story short, the new oven technology is fucking phenomenal, right? So they're creating ovens that actually can spot cook and make sure everything's perfectly temperatured, right? Well, this technology can be applied to removing water and drying things, so you can spot remove water from.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So and I'm like, holy shit, dude! And in 10 minutes, you go from wet to dry. It's like
wow.
Yeah. So
is it like infrared?
No, that's why I say it's pretty crazy stuff. But the concept, I mean, when I talk about things like this, and I'm just bound with this relationship that I can't say anything about it. But when you talk about things like this conversation, I know conceptually, like I know what's behind this. Like I can't wait to peel back the layers and understand what this thing is, because I am geek. Because I know, man. These things are the things. Like this part of the industry that I'm in is here, right? The consumption side is massive.
Yeah,
and we
it's just starting to. Look, the consumption side is huge, and obviously, if you look, it doesn't. Let's not talk about cannabis. Let's just talk about food, right?
Yeah.
Anywhere you go, it doesn't matter what city you're in. Doesn't matter. You're going to have 2 or 3 restaurants per block. Yeah. Right? There are hundreds and hundreds of, I would even say close to 1 million, restaurants in this country, right? Yeah. In legal states alone, I just look around at the actual restaurants. Now, from a licensing standpoint, cities are only giving a certain amount of licenses for these consumption lounges right now, right? But once a product like this gets out there, and you can start creating food that's not infused, and then the consumer has a way to infuse it on their own, every restaurant becomes opportunity. You can literally sell these little packets of oregano in a dispensary. I can go to my favorite pizza spot in New York, get my pizza, rip open my packet, and I can infuse my pizza on my own without having to go to some place to get infused pizza. So that's the beauty of what this is all about. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
you just buy it and then you take it with you. It's travel safe. It's amazing. I mean, it really is. I mean, there's so many different options,
That's
that you can do with
astounding
it.
to me.
So.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get together. I think you know what I think I love your energy and I love the way how you understand it and you're geeking out on it.
Yeah.
I've had so many people come to me and they'll be like, "Oh, dude, like, who cares?" I'm like, "What do you mean, who cares?" It's like, "Well, I just want weed in my food." I was like, "You don't understand. Then you don't
Yeah.
understand culinary." And if I go a little further, I'm like, "Dude, do you live to eat or do you eat to live?" That's a question.
That's a great
A lot of
question.
people be like, "Yo, I eat to live." I'm like, "Well, then you're not my customer."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you live to eat and you want an experience and you want to, like, take your food to the next level or enjoy it, you're going to live to eat. You're my customer.
Yeah, yeah, that's a completely different concept. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. Listen, I think this was a really excellent opportunity. I can't believe I was kind of concerned because I know we had some misses and life gets that way and sometimes things just don't work out. But I'm
Yeah.
really glad we were able to, and we even overcame some technical difficulties to get this done today, and we
True
still did.
that.
So fuck it, we got it done.
We're in flow. Let me tell you, when you're in flow, you're in flow, right?
That's right, man. It's a great conversation. I think we could probably go on. And honestly, like I said, I geek out on the tech stuff. That's my passion. I used to watch how it's made, like
Oh,
religion.
yeah. I love that.
That was my thing.
Yep. Yep. I'm the
Dig,
same way,
yeah.
Yep.
And so,
I'm an inventor, I mean, I love coming up with stuff like that and coming up
right.
with things that,
I
I mean,
thought we were
my
talking.
whole life I've been inventing stuff,
I thought we were talking food. We're not. We're talking my language. And not, don't get me wrong. I love food, and that's not to make any light of food, but the invention thing and the thought processes and understanding, like you said, I talk to people about what they need to do in the future, like because I know when I buy equipment for myself, I buy for the future. I don't buy for today. If I'm just feeding my problem today, I'm cutting myself short. So when I buy a piece
Sure.
of equipment, I go, oh well, this has this extra capability. If I spend a little bit extra now, I won't have to come back and try. I can build into that, right? And I think I
Yeah.
try and teach people that, but most people get this myopic. They get short-sighted and they can only see here, and instead of looking over and seeing what's really going on out there in the world,
Yeah.
and that's what you're talking about. This is like there's this short picture here, which is like, oh, really cool food and tastes great, but there's this whole world of
Yeah,
reality
it's a much deeper level. It
that people
really is. I mean, it's
they can't see.
people. You're right. They can't see beyond what they think. There's so many people that I'll speak to that can only see it up to a certain point, and they don't understand. They don't understand the breadth of it,
Yeah.
and just like the global opportunity that comes along with something like this. I mean, think about this. They've had restaurants in Amsterdam for, I think it's like 40 years, maybe even longer,
Yeah.
right? Or bakeries, whatever. No one's ever come up with anything like this to give anybody a way to actually infuse their food with weed. They're literally selling space cakes and stuff, and they've been doing it for so long,
Yeah.
So for us, I really feel like, my purpose, one of my purposes in the world is to bring cannabis and the cannabis consumption experience to everyone in a very simple and easy and familiar way. And this is my way of doing that. Not only being able to teach them how to make great tasting oils and butters and stuff, that's 10 years ago, right?
Right.
Now it's all of a sudden like, now how do you just make your experience easy at the snap of a finger? If you told me right now, Jeff, I'm having some people over in about 2 hours, can you bring over a dozen infused cookies? And if I wasn't a cannabis chef, right, but
Yeah.
I went to one of Jeff the 420 Chef's classes and learned how to do that, I'd be like, you know what, I'll be over in 2 hours with your infused cookies. And each one's going to be dosed to 2.5 or 5 milligrams a piece,
That's awesome.
right? Because there are ways to do it that are simple and easy. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I think that's the next phase is let's just make it easy for everyone, and let's give them, and leave it to us on the backside of it to come up with the ways that we create these things, like, the culinary cannabis and stuff. But you, as a consumer, we're giving you something easy now. You just buy it and move
That's
on,
what people want anyway, man. I mean,
Yeah.
if you there's that old adage, right? You sell to the rich, you live with the poor. You sell to the poor, you live with the rich. And I not to denigrate anyone, but the reality is the idea is that you sell to the many, because but that's the convenience conversation. That's the ease, the simplicity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why companies like McDonald's are fucking so phenomenally, phenomenally
Huge.
successful, huge, right? I mean, but they just, it's everything they do is it's about convenience. It's about convenience,
Yeah.
you know, and it's about simplicity. And this is all we're talking about is just how to take that that thing that was kind of out there and unknown, or kind of a boogeyman, if you will, and make it
Hmm.
like, no, this is simple, right? You know,
Yeah.
take
Like
your
literally just take it with you.
throw in your oregano. It's good.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah, just go wherever you want in the world. Take your little packet with you. Go to fucking Alabama where it's not legal and just like get high
Yeah,
eating pizza.
yeah. I mean, this is crazy, because I mean, you could literally be you could be in every dispensary in the country with a set of spices. For
Yeah, yeah,
cooking.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it's literally, so I mean culinary cannabis is weed that mimics the herbs that you're familiar with.
Yeah,
So and the sell on that is getting people to understand it, right? it's,
yeah,
it's getting out there and showcasing it, and showing them how to use it, and that's where the restaurants and the lounges come into play, where if you're going to go to, let's say, LA or Nevada, wherever you're going to go, and if there is a true consumption lounge that offers this and you can experience it, then you're going to need to go to the dispensary and buy it, and there'll be a groundswell that will come from it once people get to know about it. And the bigger the word is that you get out, the better. I mean, I'll tell you, I was just on Chopped 420, like the Chopped show on Discovery Plus, and believe it, and they chopped me for one reason, because I removed the flavor of the weed from my food. How many people want to taste weed in their food? You know what I'm saying? So it's just crazy. So it's one of those
you're
things. But
cheating.
okay, it's like.
You cheated.
But I did it on,
Got
but
it.
I did it on purpose, because I wanted them to understand
Yeah,
that
no,
you
I
don't
mean,
always have to taste the weed in your food.
this is revolutionary in that respect, because honestly, I would be 100% honest with you. I mean, it tastes like fucking hay. There's
Yeah.
nothing good about the way it tastes. And I don't care what you say about it. Oh, I made it taste. You're incorporating a flavor profile that is not a favorite flavor profile into whatever food. It's like, oh, okay, well, I have lemon meringue pie with a hint of this flavor. Like, fuck, I don't want cayenne pepper in my lemon meringue pie either, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not what we're
But the
shooting.
taste isn't even weed. The taste is the burned part
Yeah,
of the weed.
right,
It's
right.
like scraping off the black part of the toast and putting it in the jar and putting it in your food. It
Here's
doesn't make any sense to me.
some bong scrapings for you. Here, put that
Yeah,
in
it's
your
exactly
pie.
exactly what it tastes like. Exactly. And that's why your weed tastes like bong water. It's like,
Yeah, exactly right. Holy shit. Oh my god, that's fucking hilarious, man. No way. I mean, it speaks to, and I'm not calling anybody out, but it speaks to kind of the uh, the ignorance, right, that still surrounds this whole thing, and I think that's I think it's great that people are doing things like that, like teaching people how to cook and do that kind of stuff. But the idea that you're talking about and what we've talked about for this basically an hour now is not that. It is really
yeah.
not that. It is really something revolutionary. And if you've listened to this podcast and you don't understand what we're talking about, listen to it again. Because I'm telling you,
Yeah.
this is fucking revolutionary.
I
And
appreciate that.
it's pretty badass, man. It is something special. And I think we're gonna, yeah. I hope we get to work together. I hope I get to
Let's
be
do
a
it.
part of it. I'm happy to sit on the outside and just be a piece of it. But I think it's revolutionary in its concept for sure. And if the execution if the execution is there, I mean, it's definitely revolutionary. It's going to be something that blows open the whole deal, honestly,
Thank
because
you. I appreciate that, man.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, very unbelievable.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I just can't. I'm glowing. I'm excited. I
So
can't.
we're gonna have to do a follow-up podcast after this and let everyone know how it turned out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We will. We will. We'll definitely do it. Listen, thank you so much for making the time. I know you're very busy, and deservedly so. I mean, it's good to be busy. I appreciate that myself. So, congratulations to you, your success,
Thank you.
and I think your success is about to get really, really big. So good for you.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I
Yeah,
appreciate having me on the show. Yeah, you're
yeah,
awesome guy. You're an awesome guy, and this is a lot of fun. I love fun people who
yeah.
get it. There's nothing better.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know.
this is what it's about. You're gonna spend an hour with
Yeah.
me. Let's have a good time.
Absolutely. Yeah, you do a great job. I'm
Yeah,
very excited. Now I'm
cool, cool.
excited about meeting you.
Yeah, we definitely make it happen. So I'm gonna get Marco will send you, like an email and get your picture or whatever you want for the post on it. Your
Okay.
contact information, whatever you want to advertise or market on it, will be great. And then we'll give you an email that says when it goes live.
Okay,
So
perfect.
I've got, I don't know how many of these I've got. I got a bunch of them. They're all on archive somewhere. But these things, we get maybe 100,000, 150,000 people download. With you being celebrity, maybe we're gonna finally break that mark.
Well, maybe help. I mean, so maybe help me out because my Instagram account got taken down about several months ago. I had almost 50,000 followers, and they took me down. So I'm rebuilding. I only have like 700 and something followers again. I'm like, wow, we got to get up there,
Oh, that's
But it's like it's
unbelievable.
stuff like this. It's stuff like this that that gets it back up, and I've got to get back. I got to get stuff. People like Snoop, back to do stuff. I mean, one of the big things was Snoop posted one of my pictures. I don't know if you can see this here, but there's like this egg picture back there. I don't know if you can see
Oh
that.
yeah,
Do you see that?
yeah.
Yeah. So that one over there is like really famous. He posted that, and like on that day we got over 1,000 followers last time. You know what I'm saying? And things just like pop. They start popping. But
Right.
yeah, if you guys could help help me get my Instagram following back, up, that's also great because it only helps everybody else,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for
Everything that
sure.
I do gets out to my people, and I mean, we're pretty engaged, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're all still struggling with the stupidity of this economy. Which
Yeah, and
I mean,
Instagram is just crazy.
and Instagram and all this fucking bullshit. They got rules like they'll let fucking really questionable people on there, and then they won't.
Yeah,
Won't let, in an industry that's legal in most of the states, they're gonna
yeah.
no, that's bad. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, what happened when I got shut down, a bunch of my friends got shut down the same exact moment. And what we realized was there was an algorithm bullet that was put out there, and anybody who was using hashtag THC, hashtag cannabis got shut down immediately. So if you go to Instagram now, you cannot even use the hashtags THC or cannabis. They've
wow,
taken them all down. And anybody that had them got deleted. So we don't use it anymore. But it's really messed up because, we're at
yeah,
420. It's another one. Anything like that. If you try it, go to Instagram and check it yourself. You'll see. So we've got to be a lot more clever about how we get the word out. And that's one of the reasons Pink Dot has been so great because all the food I do at Pink Dot it's munchy driven, but it's not, there's no weed in it, right?
right.
And even when we do our cannabis infusions, we're going to put it out there as non-infused with that you can infuse it on your own, So my latest munchie vodka is something called mac and fries with flaming hots on top. So it's mac and cheese and cheesy fries all combined in one with flaming hots on top. It's
Fucking
pretty
hungry
incredible,
right now, man.
right? That's our munchie box.
Oh God, dude.
So it's stuff like that, Anything we could do to get Instagram, It's like
Yeah. Fucking Instagram, man.
so. Well,
Facebook,
it is what it
Instagram,
is, but.
bunch of jabronis, those guys.
I agree 100%. They're horrible. But anyway, we kind of need them in a way. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's how else do we? I mean, without spending a gazoo of money, how else do you do it? You just really don't.
Yeah. Helps us with what we got to do. So,
Yeah.
anyway, I got to get out of here. But it was
Yeah.
really great chatting with you guys.
Thank
Like,
you.
really awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll get this tidied up. We'll let you know when you get a chance. Get that laptop plugged back in or computer plugged back in so we can get that download, and then Marco can splice it all together. He'll make it
Okay.
look pretty. You won't even know anything happened.
It'll be back up, and then within the next hour, I'm going to head to the office right now, and then I'll just plug it in, and we should be good. Marco, if you don't get it within the next 2 hours, text me or email me or whatever, and I'll see what we can do. But I'm going to just plug in soon. So
send me your send me an email with your contact stuff. We'll get together when you have space.
Okay, sounds great.
About the
I
other
don't know
stuff.
if I have. Do I have Cullen's email? I don't know if I have it.
I think we're copied on one.
Copied. Okay. Yeah, I'll send you everything. You got it, man.
And then we'll just make some time. Man, thanks again. Really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you. This is really great.
Thank you all for joining this week's podcast. You can check us out at GreenBroz.com and all the socials at GreenBroz.